There are these voices in my head whispering, swim with the waves. They tell me, all your answers are prancing inside the dome you wish to silence so badly. They tell me, as we speak, you write. They say, take a second and contemplate the soul food we placed on your plate. They say, let's work together, trailblaze all our endeavors. We'll surf the weathers and scale the storms, the murky swarms, the labyrinth mind. They say, people don't understand your sporadic tendencies. That's why you're the candidate for art. They don't understand the timing of art. They don't understand when the train departs, art is stifled. The right moments come while present. They say, thanks for being present.
The poem is called By Myself in the Covered World. When things are murky, dark clouds obscure my sight, I ask myself this question out of sheer naked fright. Am I going to be alone in the covered world? The question itself is nonsense. Surrounded by billions of my kind, they're everywhere I look. How would I get in such a bind as being alone in the covered world? Yet when I look at humans as they go about their tasks, I see that they are vacant, hiding behind all sorts of masks. Do they also feel alone in the covered world? Zombified, they walk the streets, searching for non-existent threats, ready to pounce on anything with such an ever-growing dread. They must feel so alone in the covered world. Side glances at my unmasked face, my friendly smile throws them off, and lack of fear shines aloud. But even I don't dare to cough. I am still feeling alone in the covered world. If only there was a magical place, somewhere where I could decompress, a place I could just be myself, without expectations to impress. I might always be alone in the covered world. And then, one Facebook afternoon, I had stumbled on an ad explaining how I could escape upwards. That really didn't sound too bad. Maybe I won't always be alone in the covered world. Autonomy was what they called the place, an online school of sorts, a beautiful community with many a like-minded soul. Did they also feel alone in the covered world? Swimming in the warm embraces, unlike the people from the street, here we embrace uncertainty, sounding a drum of another beat. I no longer feel alone in the covered world. Picking up skills, growing our talents, turning hobbies into cash. These folks of autonomy are painting the world with another brush, so no one feels alone in the covered world. Learning to live, learning to fail, learning to accept themselves, working rhetoric into gold. One might think they're powered by elves. The elves would never feel alone in the covered world. Now I no longer mind the masks, either the cloth or mental ones. I know that out there in the world, there is a place I can call home. And here we're building our own world.
Okay, idiota. Pathos so persistent forced me to ungrit my coils of curiosity because they found your incompetence revolting, like barehanding a stranger's snot on a handrail on a cold Saturday morning.
Wow.
It's titled Old Phone. And I wrote, I am an old phone, sure to shut off randomly. I rarely hold a charge anymore. Don't try to complete tasks with me. I barely function most days, and I tend to freeze. So I won't be surprised when you're fed up and then you get rid of me.
There's an emotional sickness spreading among us, an empathy deficit, a viral disconnection that puts COVID to shame. Where is it coming from? How far down do those roots really go? If we can find the source, or at the very least just acknowledge our real condition, can we then find in ourselves the ability to heal? I think the time has arrived to move the ego aside and let your higher self write this prescription. The medicine is in the palm of your hand. You just need the courage to accept it. It is love. It has always been love. So what is it in us that restricts the comprehension of such a simple answer to such a complex question? Perhaps it is the misunderstanding of what that love is. It's the mistake of attaching ourselves to the tiny little box that we have shoved that love into. We have become reliant upon the limits of language and media imagery to show us stories and pictures of what love really looks like. We have allowed television, fiction, and social programming to become our teachers, and in turn, we have forgotten so much of our inner wisdom. Give your precious self that quiet moment alone to close your eyes and simply remember how to feel. Our society tends to immediately relate the word love to a romantic partner. We think of dating. We think of passion. We continuously throw sex into the infinitely large box that we call love and then wonder why it echoes so loudly in our ears. There is room in our hearts for so much more. Our love for each other has become like a string of Christmas lights that has short-circuited, and now all of the energy has focused itself into a select few bulbs. Lights glow for romance, lights glow for our own families, but there's so much darkness in between. How does a blood relation validate one love but not another? We are all one family. We are the human family. Love is the unconditional sharing of the experience of life. It is the unconditional sharing of that which is our life force. Love is being able to look through another perspective to find understanding. It's being able to see how we are all the same in our differences. It's being able to see another member of our vast human family in their worst of times and to not condemn or dismiss, but to instead empathize in all of the ways that you could have been in their shoes if you'd only stumbled into a different life. We breed products of the system like cattle and throw the ones who don't cooperate into institutions or prisons. We hide them behind these thick walls until the containers overflow and spill them back out onto our streets. We strip these family members of the basic tools needed to be a functioning member of society, and then we pretend to wonder why our homeless numbers continue to get larger and more diverse. The ones born gifted with the sane and untainted minds are just the feeding grounds for the mass media and political parasites who continue to thrive off of their gullibility. So what then of the population of the cracked souls in between? The depressed, the bipolar, the coping addict, the abused, the oppressed, the poverty-stricken, and all of the other variety of broken that is considered to be our lower class. We are not lower. We are simply closer to the real ground. Our toes are barely touching the surface of our human condition, and yet it is still not enough to see beneath the clouds of our own illusions. We are seeing shadows of each other through a fog of confusion, unaware that we are seeing glimpses of our own reflections. Under this thick haze lies a grand population of mirrors, each of which reflects a different part of yourself. You are the mirror, and you are the ever-changing reflection. So please, my dear human family, allow yourself to come down from the clouds. Take a deep breath and a fresh look around you with the filters turned off. Take a moment to dust the surface of your soul's mirror enough for the light to reflect and shine to the other mirrors all around you. It will take more than a single spark to ignite this fire. So what the fuck are we waiting for? We have lived in the shadows of our true nature for far too long. Together, it is time to step back into the light.
Millie was a little girl, afraid of the big white world. She grew up within her castle world. Now and then she tried to run, and then on the night with the setting sun, she went in the woods away, so afraid, all alone. Then I warned her, don't go there. There's creatures hiding in the dark, and something came creeping. He told her, don't you worry, just follow everywhere I go. Top of all the mountains of valley low, I'll give you everything you've been dreaming of. Just let me in. Ooh. Everything you want and gold, I'll be the magic story you've been told, and you'll be safe under my control. Just let me in. Ooh.
So it goes MTA memoir. So this is Metropolitan Transit Authority. The trains from New York. That's who operates the whole shebang. So it goes from the benches to the mezzanine, the elevators to the yellow partition on the edge of the platform, the number lines to the letter lines, even the shuttle lines, all across zip codes, the subway carts and stations. These have been the office where these pages took form. I've written most of these words during rush hour, in between showtime and train delays, running late but on time to consume your mind. I filled every New York City subway train with my train of thoughts. You may have caught me in the act. Just think back. Grand Central Station, Atlantic Avenue, Eastern Parkway, 4750th Rockefeller, or maybe Union Square, 14th Street, Columbus Circle, 149th Street and 3rd Avenue. Maybe Bedford Park, Vernon Boulevard. Stand clear of the closing doors, please. And that's the piece right there. Empty.
Metro Madrid. Line 1's horrific, 10's terrific, 3's the worst. But I rarely have to take 3. Lucky me. Any ride, anytime during rush hour is a nightmare. Miserably sardined. Beggars, tourists, thieves in suits. The doors open and waves pour out. Crushes more, push back in. Damn, don't cough on me. Blank stares, quick glances, discreet glares, secret fancies, the curiosity of silence, the irks of chatter, lost thoughts, missed chances. Embajadores, 1:30 a.m. rush. Just our luck, 20 minutes to wait. We may as well walk, we're already late. Sunday morning, 7 a.m., half-empty train of gatos going home. Her head rests on my shoulder, her hand on the night's conclusion. 2 foreign wasters whose paths briefly crossed while sheltered in this rising haven. I close my eyes and the world contently spins. Suddenly the doors open. This must be our stop.
Please allow me to introduce myself. I'm a man of wealth and taste. I've been around for a long, long year, stole many man's soul and faith. I was around when Jesus Christ had his moment of doubt and pain, made damn sure that Pilate washed his hands and sealed his fate. Pleased to meet you. Hope you guess my name. But what's puzzling you is the nature of my game. All right, so I'm just going to stop there. And this idea of the nature of the game, I think, is really the most important part of this whole song. And it's, I think if you followed into some of the stuff, and really James True is really hitting it on the money with his definition of evil lately. I don't know if you've seen the blog or his latest thing. I think it's called The Definition of Evil, and maybe Agnieszka can tell us what episode that is. But he goes into a book by Scott Peck called The People of the Lie. And in it, it talks about how evil isn't really evil as we see it, like people doing evil, but it's ignorance. It's people not being able to really see the harm that they're doing to other people. And it's just building up. People are harming people. People don't know that they're harming people. People don't accept responsibility for harming other people. So then the people that are harmed are sitting there going, why? And in most cases, it's children. It's children that are being harmed, and they're being harmed by their own parents in a lot of ways. And it's because of this ignorance, And so I think this is really kind of that, that statement about ignorance that we all basically have to take a claim to. But I think there's more to this song. And that is these two verses. And I'll just mention these. So it says, I shouted out, who killed the Kennedys, when after all, it was you and me. Let me please introduce myself. I'm a man of wealth and taste. And I lay traps for the troubadours who get killed before they reach Bombay. So does anybody know what a troubadour is?
No, not here, please.
So I guess it was, and honestly, you can't really get a great definition of what a troubadour is. But there's a suggestion that they were kind of performing kind of history tellers or storytellers to some degree, but probably more likely someone that carried on the oral tradition of what history was. And they kind of traveled around in the medieval times. And so, depending on when you believe the medieval times were, that's when they were around. And, to some degree, they were kind of bringing about the common sense, in my opinion. I don't know. I'm willing to hear other people's opinion on this. But again, I think it's one of these circumstances where it's this trap that they're laying for people that want to tell their story, people that want to tell other people the correct stories. And this also kind of relates to something else that I've discovered here in Autonomy, which is Alfred Korzybski and his idea of humans being time binders, and the idea that we've got to pass on our knowledge to future generations. We've got to learn our lessons, but then we've got to teach our lessons to the people that go beyond us. And that's really how we improve the world, is through teaching other people the lessons that we've learned, so they don't fall into the same traps and repeat the process again. But unfortunately, that's not what we're doing. We're unaware that we're time binders, and so we're falling victim to basically the same ploy over and over and over again. Every 3 or 4 generations, we just fall for the same shit. And it will be perpetual like that. And again, this is really the evil that we face. It's just our own ignorance, But if we are ignorant and we allow the traps to just keep being put in front of us where we fall into them, whose fault is it?
Yeah. And I guess one of the questions is how successful is art for the troubadour? How, not even how, but that's probably throughout history, it shows how effective that kind of medium is for conveying that and timing, recording that time in kind of a musical which is even an interesting kind of correlation, right? The timing versus and things like that. Yeah, that's I never heard the lyrics, like actually heard them. I actually just heard about that song like several months ago. Someone someone posted it on one of my videos actually that I had posted up. So when you said that, I was like, wow.
You're so young, Pablo.
Yeah, I'm showing my age there. But
yeah, they actually were poets and musicians, and that was how they spread what Michael was talking about. Through poetry and music.
Yeah.
12th and 13th century.
Yeah, like bards.
Yeah.
Who actually
definitely
wrote that song, Mike?
Well, that's a good question because this is where you get into some of the.
Look at the album. Who actually credited? Did Mick Jagger write it?
I think that's Mick Jagger and who's the bass player? Keith Richards. Yeah. But there's definitely a lot of interesting things about the music industry, and the Tavistock Tavistock Institute is one in which there's some very interesting connections to all the people that are in the music industry and all the people that produce the music and write the songs, and so it's hard to say whether this is just a genuine piece of art or it's something that's more of a kind of a classified ad to essentially announce that they're very capable of creating ignorance, and they're just going to use ignorance to control the world.
And that's so true. And everything from the Tavistock Institute in the UK, where they were involved, and the Laurel Canyon scene here in California. There's a lot of that, and it's sometimes it's difficult to parse, like what's meaning for meaning's sake and what's meaning for manipulation's sake.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of Satanism in the music industry, and I don't know.
This is kind of the start. That's the kind of start of a lot of that. I mean, at least the kind of the openness.
I lost all respect for Mick Jagger when he got knighted by the Queen.
Well, obviously he deserves
Roy,
it,
you know what they say: you can't always get what you want.
A science denier. I'm a mage, an alchemist, a potion master, but they called me a science denier. The making of the simplest potion, laundry powder, let's say, requires chemistry, physics, and math. A small potion that carries electricity, one that may heal a minor infection, infused with botanicals and magic, requires more than science. Yet, insolent mental maggots dare to raise their puny voices at me, who's been focusing my power for centuries through dozens of incarnations. They called me a science denier.
You play it again, Brandon?
Did that come out okay, or is it?
It came out perfect. I got an idea.
That came out great.
I just got an idea. If you play it again, I'll
Right.
read over it one of mine.
So which part fits best, do you think?
Whatever you just
Whatever?
did, it was the perfect length.
Okay.
Justified. Justified. I don't know whether to judge Marlowe wrong or right. Yet who is he to be judged? That is not our place. However, had he not submerged into the mouth of the snake, had he not fled crying back into the safe womb, would never he have put his acts on trial? By scholars who appreciate great stories by famed geniuses.
Sorry. I
That
should've
was
kept going.
awesome.
Give me a sign. What do? I try to search for knowledge, but is any of it true? 111 444 222. I see all the synchronicities, but I seem to be stuck in a loop. In my head, I hear all the voices. Which one do I listen to? I try to tune the right station, only to be flooded with the static noise of my thoughts. Am I flooding the frequency of your guidance? How I long for a quiet thought.
To Texas every summer when the folks step out beneath his sky-high incubator, the Bible belt loosened and the britches of salvation come sliding down to the hot, hot ground.
The last quote, I believe it's by Mary Oliver. It's kind of like my go-to when I am worried about, like, I write dark poetry. I write about things that people don't want to listen to, that I don't even want to like hear or listen to. So yeah, this quote is really powerful to me. And so it says, "Someone I loved once gave me a box full of darkness. It took me years to realize that this too was a gift."
Urination beckoned me like the smell of grandmother's fried pies as the crowd's roar thundered above the announcer. Cameras flashed as the starter yelled through the speaker, "Runners, to your mark!" Oh, how my bladder bloated, but if perhaps it went down my leg. What an unforgettable Olympic moment for the unforgiving photographic history books that would be.
How nervous I was. And I want to start by reciting that poem. It's a bit gruesome, but anyway, I'm feeling a bit nervous. So I was so fucking nervous. My heart was in my throat. I was so fucking nervous. I thought that I might choke. I was so fucking nervous. I really could have died of embarrassment and fear inside, spewing forth east, south, west, north, all around me, just vomit coming out of me, my pussy guts open for all the world to see. In front of you, one big hoik. Someone get me a bucket. No, make that a joint. It's time to visit with my best friend. I'm longing to see Mary Jane again. She provides such comfort, she does, with her beautiful, succulent, pungent buds. So I pick up my pen and that's just how nervous I was.
Yay, that was
I
awesome.
loved that.
Roz blows his
Thank
way
you.
again. Yay.
So maybe if that might, well, it's not about, that was about humiliation, that poem. And this poem now is about humiliation. Cool. Anyway, thanks for the request, Agnieszka, best friend.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that
It's
again.
called I Am Paranoid. Example 1. Thanks. Example 1, humiliation. 'Twas almost midnight on New Year's Eve. The chimes had not yet struck when something happened you wouldn't believe I could have such wondrous good luck. A music festival nearby here, which happens like clockwork once a year, was the context for my humiliating event, so it's hardly surprising it took place in a tent. Before we get to the excruciating bit, the bit where I felt so terribly hit, metaphorically of course, yet nevertheless, here's the reason I got into this. This is the shit that I have to admit. Earlier that day, I had roared at this bloke. His behaviour, disgusting, no fucking joke. Parrhesia had taken a firm grip on my throat. I was pissed off, angry, mad as could be. We had paid this fella's entry fee. He was there for the purpose of giving me a hand to hang out with my son Gary while I saw a band. Sharing the caring, one would have thought. His contribution amounted to naught. His neglect and demeanour proved more than disturbing. Most inappropriate was his lecherous perving. He was too busy making friends with our friends. When he upset that Gary, that was the end. Bottom line, he failed to do what was agreed. And when he upset Gary, he upset me. Fuck off, I said loudly. Go, leave straight away. The cowardly, fill in the blank, he had nothing to say. Not to me, anyway. He cried to my friends, I later heard. I wasn't told then, not a single word. And he lied and he cried, tears that touched my friends deep inside. And that was the day the music died. So later that night in our shared kitchen tent, getting all charged up for the year's main event, I recollect some 11 of us there, friends I thought then, I thought that they cared. Instead, they all turned on me right there and then. I was one, all alone against a hostile 10. At one point in time, they all stopped and they stared. No one spoke to me. They just scowled and they glared. It all seemed pretty gutless if you ask me. Even so, right then I didn't want to be me. They were screwing with me, intentionally, excitingly. I looked around with increasing incredulosity as I realised the cost of my prior verbosity. I'm so glad to be telling this story. For a long time it played on my mind, the humiliating feeling of one who's been left behind, excised, disregarded, misunderstood, discarded. For a while, I felt like I was in hell. Deeper I went into my fragile shell. I locked tight the door and barred the front gate. I almost succumbed to a dreadful fate. Humiliation took a toll on me until Amma's love came and set me free, embracing the world and embracing me. Lucky, lucky, lucky me.
So in 2005, I felt torn up. I tear myself up every day. I let my emotions flutter like frightened birds, tearing the fabric of my soul. Last week, I was so torn up, I fluttered in the wind like yesterday's newspaper. The keeper is asleep. She has a daunting task ahead of her, taming the many frightened birds.
Wow. It's called Diagnosis, and it has very familiar spirit to Willow's piece. Sometimes I feel inconsistent and unstable. At times I am afraid to be under the influence of enhancers, because those are the times when I face the reality of what truly goes on internally. Accompanying these moments are emotions of discomfort. Discomfort in my complacency. What complacency, you ask? The one where the world deteriorates while I Netflix and chill. I never had sleep paralysis, but if I can hijack its definition, it would be fitting to define the picture I fervently try to depict. I have constant waves of antisocial episodes. I guess the older I become, the more I gravitate towards introverted tendencies. Or are these the repercussions of insanity? I realize I bounce around my relationships. One moment I'm present, the next I'm ghost. I have continual moments of low self-esteem. It is a crippling feeling when you want to break out of conditional enslavement, but have no clue of how to survive when liberated. I have trouble executing tasks for fear that my craft, my hobbies, are no match to my financial responsibilities. I have trouble remembering. I have trouble with my recollection. These feelings, these emotions, these reflections have cloaked me long enough for me to recall something. What troubles me the most about my recollection is not knowing how long this has been, my diagnosis.
So this poem is about all of the disassociation that I was forced to have to do to be able to function as a teenager. So I'll just go ahead and begin. So it says, Death's icy embrace greets me as an old friend. The sweet numbness holds me as I stand steady against the end. It is inevitable, this I do know. The memories eat away at all sanity. Through it all I fight not to show. Wars my mind has through it all I fight not to show. Wars my mind has to torment me. Fighting for futile dreams, an endless loop of yesterday. Schooled in forcing back the despondent screams, behind the words I sing for you, isolated by fake smiles and careful lies, deceiving, less discerning, all but the perceptive ones. Apt as they are at subtleties, little can I reveal, still enough is known to assume the rest, unsure as to what it means to truly care. Fear multiplies in the absence of light, preferring to pretend pain is not there, resigned alone to continue the fight. I realized halfway through of that, I was like, there's like 3 verses in there that don't rhyme.
No, for 16.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty powerful.
Okay, Willow, all I can say is this. I hope when my kids are 16, if they're writing like that, then I've done something right in life.
Exactly.
Oh.
Who has led me but astray down the alley of misinformation? Who has led me but astray down the road of religious indoctrination? Who has led me but astray down the path of authoritative subjugation? Who has led me but astray down the journey of cultured conditioning? Who has led me but astray down the assembly line of consensus? Who has led me but astray down the cafeteria of artificiality? Who has led me but astray down the lane of appraisal for legalized criminality? Who has led me but astray down the trail of the shadow? Who has led me but astray down the burrow of addiction? Who has led me but astray down the tour of distraction? Who has led me but astray down the passage of division? Who has led me but astray toward the route of oblivion? Who has led me but astray into the practice of malnourishment? Who has led me but astray away from the gatherings of rebellion? Who has led me but astray into the circles of dishonest compromise? Who has led me but astray into the chambers of conformity? Who has led me but astray, my mentors who've been led away from natural order?